Well, Rube, it's a pretty boring Sunday. The Eagles are not playing football today, so nothing's going on, right?
Pretty quiet day. Yeah.
Boy, we were not planning on doing a podcast here, but when the starting quarterback perhaps not playing in a football game is not the biggest news of the day, here we are. This is the Eagle Eye Podcast, an emergency Eagle Eye Podcast presented by Nissan. Reuben, Frank, Dave, Zangaro. Where do we start here, Rube?
Well, I guess we start with the change at defensive coordinator, which, look, the last few weeks have been pretty ugly, pretty bad. Really, the last 6 weeks. Still, when a team is 10-3, it's kind of shocking when they make a move this big.
Yeah, Sean Desai. The reports are out there from Jay Glazer, Ian Rappaport, and others. Sean Desai basically demoted. Matt Patricia takes over. He's been a senior defensive consultant,
senior defensive assistant. They make these titles up. And
whatever. He's been on the coaching staff all year, and now he's going to basically be calling the plays on defense. It's a major shakeup, and it's kind of crazy to me that this has happened this year. This is a team that shut down Miami not that long ago, shut down Kansas City in the second half, and then everything has just unraveled since then.
Yeah. It's sitting here 6 weeks ago. I mean, they were the number 6 defense in the league. But it's been a complete collapse. And I think the last 2 weeks, really the last 3 weeks, because even the Buffalo game, they gave up 34 points. They just haven't stopped anybody. When you go 10 straight drives, allowing points, 9 touchdowns and a field goal, something's amiss. And I guess the thinking was, it's Sean Desai's coached 13 games. This is a first-year defensive coordinator that, they spoke so highly of. Nick did, and everybody did not that long ago. So, it's jarring to have this kind of change. This is a team that was the number 1 seed in the NFC a few days ago. So to make a change like this, we've seen really bad teams make these kind of changes. And maybe over the last few weeks, this has been a really bad defense, but it's still, Nick's got to be pretty darn sure that this is the right move to make it now when they control. You win their last 4 games against 4 teams with losing records, and you're number 2 seed at worst in the NFC. So this is kind of a unprecedented move for a team in this position. But when you look at the last few weeks, you understand it.
Yeah, I guess you do. And in a way, this, I guess, becomes a tryout for Matt Patricia over the last 4 games if this defense turns around. And if I'm Sean Desai, I'm going, well, wait a second. Look at the offenses I had to deal with, and now look at the offenses he's going to have to deal with down the
stretch. He's got to figure out a way to stop Tommy DeVito.
Yeah.
Twice.
It is pretty crazy. I did not foresee this coming. And look, when the Eagles hired Sean Desai, remember, it all kind of came about. It took a long time because Gannon got hired late by the Cardinals. And, I think the Eagles would have hired Vic Fangio if the timing worked out. Instead, they hired a Vic Fangio disciple. And it wasn't the right move, I guess. Denard Wilson was in the building and they interviewed him, didn't hire him. He goes to Baltimore and that secondary has been playing extremely well. Maybe they just missed this one.
Yeah, it could be. It does happen. Nick must be really sure they missed to make this move now. Matt Patricia, it's interesting because he joined the staff late. He didn't join the staff till, I think, just before the draft, a couple of days before the draft. So Sean Desai was here for a couple months. So it was a weird hiring when they made it. Nick talked about, having as many good people in the building as possible. But it did seem weird. Here's a guy who's been a defensive coordinator. He's been a head coach. And it did seem a little, awkward to have him in the building 2 months after you hired Sean Desai as DC. Did we talk to Matt at all in the summer? I don't think we did. So I guess we'll get that chance next week. But, yeah, the whole thing has been strange, and the the defense has been, I mean, look, they have some injuries. N'Kobe, missed some games. Avante, they've had some injuries, but for the most part, they've been pretty healthy. They've had some linebackers get banged up. This is the number 2 defense in the league last year, and now that was with T.J. Edwards and Hargrave and C.J. G.J. It's been a different, but to go from number 2 and the number 1 pass offense to number 28 now, number 29 pass offense, that kind of thing. It's been, it's been a lot. So in a way, it seems like a panic move. You're 10-3. You control your own destiny as far as a number two seed in the conference. That would become a number 1 seed if the 49ers lose a game and you win your last 4. But also, if they're sitting there saying, we still think we have a chance to do something special, but we can't do that with the defense is currently being run, I get it.
Yeah, it's certainly drastic. I tried. It's funny. We're doing this podcast. Neither of us were expecting it. I'm in my hotel room in Seattle. You're in your car. I just briefly tried to run over because you can probably hear this hum. I'm next to like the radiator in my hotel room. And I quickly ran across the room, tried to turn the temperature down, and it shut off for a second, and then it came back on. So,
well, it's pouring here in. I think I'm in I'm in Solebury Township in Bucks County in a parking lot of a diner, and it's pouring here because it pours every weekend.
It does, and it's probably going to rain on Monday for this game.
Every Eagles game it rains. Maybe they figure Matt Patricia's a better rainy day coach. Well, let's talk about Sean Desai and when you started to wonder if he was the guy, because like you said, the Miami game. I mean, I thought he coached brilliantly. The second half of the Chiefs game, although the Chiefs kind of don't look like the Chiefs of old, obviously. I mean, they had a pretty good stretch there where they were playing some pretty good defense.
Yeah, I think it's just how bad they've been recently, and they haven't even been competitive. Really, the last 3 games they've been sliced through, and it's like there's no resistance from the defense. I think that's what it is. It's like, they had no answers. The third down defense, which is like weird because I don't know if that's all coaching either. It's tough we always, when things are going poorly, you always try to play the blame game and figure out, is it coaching? Is it execution? What is it? I think it's been a mixture of all of these. I wonder how much of it is just a message to the team. Don't get someone fired. I don't know.
Yeah. And when you start seeing issues with effort, look, it's not all Sean Desai's fault. Personnel, guys not making plays. There's a lot to it. But when you start seeing a lack of effort, that's when which I think we've seen, just the lack of intensity. The last couple of weeks, like you said, they didn't put up a fight. And I think that's when you kind of start looking at, you can't change 11 players. So you got to change somebody. And it could, things have been so smooth with this team since Nick got here. They win every week, and both sides of the ball play great, and every coach is a genius. And they finally hit some adversity, and maybe this is just Nick's way of saying, wake up, because it doesn't come easily. And the success we have, you really have to put in the work to have it. I don't know.
I'll tell you what, so much went right last year that I was, kind of wondering what would happen if they hit some adversity like this,
which we knew was coming.
At some point. Yeah, it would have to come. They made it through a lot of the season, even though things weren't going well at times. They were winning, so it didn't really matter. It feels like a quick trigger, but based on this drastic of a move, it can't just be the last 3 games, can it?
No, and I even wonder if Nick saw signs with Sean in the spring, and that's why he brought Matt in. I'm just spitballing now, but bringing Matt in and at the end of April is unusual timing, certainly. So I just wonder if there was something there. I don't know. And I think the offense has been so bad, it just makes everything look bad too. The offense the last couple of weeks at least, has been as bad as a defense, really. But I think, the last two games, just to put it into context, and I did a piece, I think, earlier in the week where I just looked at the historical perspective. They've allowed – this is the first time in 50 years or since 1967. So what's that, 56 years? They've allowed 33 or more points in 3 straight games. And they've allowed it's the third most points they've given up in a 3-game span, and the most since like 1973. This is historical stuff. They're not just like losing 30-27 or 27-23. They're just getting embarrassed. And
early this week, literally the first question Nick Sirianni got in his presser was if he was going to make any changes to the coaching staff. And he said flatly no. And then he said he trusted the people they had in the building, which I guess is partially true. Like, he did trust someone in the building, but not the guy he trusted initially.
Yeah. Yeah. And he answered the only way he could at that point, but he was lying. And
I don't think that's true. If you're going to make this change, people are going to find out. Why not just say it?
Maybe he didn't know yet. But you would think he would
hope he knew by then. You got to come up with a game plan.
That was what, Tuesday?
Yes.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're right. Either he didn't know, and that's really bad because he watched the Dallas game and he watched the 49ers game and he watched the Bills game. He gave up 33 points in one or 34 points in one. So he was very, very late making the decision, or he lied. But either way, it's really bad.
And if he lied about it, the Eagles put Sean Desai up on a stage to answer questions about his defense this week. If he knew he wasn't the defensive coordinator at that point, that doesn't make any sense. And I'm curious to see, and this is something that fans won't care about as much as those of us who cover the team will, curious to see what they do at their press conferences moving forward. Are they going to make Matt Patricia be the speaking voice for the defense going forward?
Yeah, it's an interesting question I've been wondering about. And the whole time, the timing of all this is really weird. When were they going to announce it? When were they going to, I don't know. But
hope no one noticed that Matt Patricia was calling in plays.
I would think you have to put Matt Patricia on the podium or lectern or whatever it is. Sarah Baker gets mad at me when I use the wrong word.
Well, it's a table at the NovaCare complex.
Yeah, it's a table. It's not. It's really neither a lectern.
You can avoid that conversation.
Yeah. They have to put. They can't run Sean Desai out there on Wednesday. I guess
I wouldn't think so
this week. And I wonder. They didn't fire him. He is still with the organization in some role, some capacity.
For now, that's a tough. Getting demoted and staying on, it doesn't normally work out.
Yeah. Yeah. And we've seen, I'm just thinking Juan Castillo was fired as DC in the middle of the season, and he was let go of the organization entirely. And Dana Bible was fired in 98. They were only scoring 11 points a game as OC, and he was replaced by Bill Musgrave. Obviously, Juan was replaced by Todd Bowles. And the offense after Dana was fired actually was worse. They went from 11 points a game to 9 points a game. But for a team that's 10-3, yeah, you just don't see it. I wonder about all these things. These are all good questions. I wonder if Nick will even acknowledge it. We won't talk to Nick until after the Seahawks game Monday night, Tuesday morning, and we'll see if he even confirms it. Or, from a PR standpoint, this is the last thing you want is, Nick should have confirmed it during the week. He should have just announced it. We're going to make a change here. Things aren't going the way we want. Because the way it came out, kind of embarrassing.
Yeah.
Because it looks like they don't really know what they're doing, which is certainly possible.
Yeah, it gives off the optics are bad, and that's one thing teams really try to avoid is for the optics to look like this. And it's just a 10-3 team, and that's kind of been their messaging. Like, we're okay. we know we have the coaches and players, like everything's going to be fine. But then you look at their actions and maybe everything isn't okay.
Yeah, no, that's fair. And I don't think this is how you handle something like that, but we'll see. I mean, if they go out to Seattle and win, 30-7, then they handled it, I guess, perfectly.
Against maybe Drew Lock.
Maybe Drew Lock versus Marcus Mariota.
Yeah. Well, let's take a quick break, and we have the news that the starting quarterback might not be playing to talk about on the other side.
You deserve a car that thrills you, a car that puts goosebumps on your goosebumps. At Nissan, we got everything from turbocharged SUVs to 100% electric vehicles that'll make your heart beat faster. Experience the thrill for yourself and shop your local Nissan store at nissanusa.com today.
Celebrity cook Steve Martorano brings his Italian-American cooking back home to Philly. Enjoy Martorano's Prime at Rivers Casino and Steve's famous meatballs with Sunday gravy, prime steaks, and more. Make reservations at Martorano's Prime on Open Table. Okay, Rube. So Saturday, Jalen Hurts not at practice. Word from the team he's sick, not here, still planning on playing, expected to play on Monday night. Then Sunday rolls around. We find out, okay, it hasn't gotten any better. Now Jalen is downgraded to questionable going into this game. There's a chance he might not play. Now, we also learned that he is flying to Seattle separately from the team in an attempt to make sure no one else gets sick near him. So, obviously not good if they downgrade him to questionable, but I guess it's a positive sign that he's flying to Seattle.
Yeah, and, the last thing you want to do when you're sick is be on an airplane for 5.5 hours. I guess there's something about the altitude that I wish I could remember the details, but the altitude kind of accelerates anything that's wrong. I guess the altitude dehydrates you 3 times faster than if you're at ground level. And when you get dehydrated, then any illness, can get worse. I wonder if they have I wonder if they have a doctor with him, if he's getting an IV. I mean, all these things I just don't know. We don't know exactly what the sickness is. So it's hard to really speculate. Look, he's a tough guy. He'll play if he can. But if he's weakened, obviously this is a pretty serious thing. So if he's weakened to the point it's going to really affect his play, there's a point where you are better off with the backup.
Yeah, pretty wild. It's tough because we just don't know what condition he's going to wake up Monday morning, how he's going to feel. The funny thing is, them pushing this game back and getting flexed to Monday night could give him a chance to play. It sounds like if the game was today, he might not be able to go.
It sounds like it. Yeah, this game getting flexed could have been the best thing to happen for the Eagles. My gut feeling is, and this is based on nothing, is that he's going to play.
Okay.
But this is kind of thing like that COVID year in 2020. We were always dealing with this. We would get these lists of, who went out to the COVID list and who's not going to play and who cleared. And so, yeah, but without really knowing what it is, or it's got to be pretty serious for him to be flying separately. So
he had an illness last year that nearly kept him out.
Yeah.
We got to get Jalen some extra vitamin C or some immune boosting something. I don't know. What's Aaron Rodgers got going on? He's got some fun stuff that we can give Jalen?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what, some people just get sick a lot. Some people don't. I don't get sick. I mean, other than getting COVID twice in 21 and then last year, or no, this past spring, right? I never get sick. I'm like the world's unhealthiest person. No, I don't know. I don't know what it is. But these guys are in close quarters. I guess they're lucky that it didn't spread to the rest of the team. I don't know how quarantined he was. I don't know if he was in meetings, if he did meetings virtually. We don't know any of this. Maybe he was in meetings with Sean Desai for all we know. But it's going to take a lot to keep him keep him on the sideline in this game, especially if he's out there. If he's in Seattle, he's got all day tomorrow. I guess, what is it, a 5:15 kick out there?
Yeah.
So he's got some time to get fluids if he needs them. Spend time with the doctor, just try to get his strength up. But yeah, there's a point where you're better off without him. Who knows where he is in relation to that point.
Yeah, and that's something to remember, even if he plays in the game, that I think it's fair to say he's not going to be 100%. So we'll look for signs of fatigue, of signs of him not being himself. It's a scary situation to be in. This is like a really big game for the Eagles all of a sudden.
It is. It's a winnable game. I mean, Seattle's not that good. They've lost 4 in a row. I'm really curious. I mean, Mariota was really bad in training camp. He was really bad in the preseason games.
He got a little better as training camp went on.
A little better. He's played a lot of games. He's won a lot of games. He's never been a great player. Minshew goes out. He won 6 games for the Colts.
Mm-hmm.
He's played really well. I mean, he's better, but he went there because he knew he'd have a chance to play that he wouldn't get here. So it's not like you could have paid him a little more and he would have stayed, maybe a lot more, but you're not going to pay your backup that kind of money. So on the one hand, you're like, would love to have Minshew. Minshew also, I don't know. He's just better. He's just a better player. But, Seattle's defense is pretty bad.
We talk about the Eagles' kind of recent stretch. Seattle's been worse.
They've been worse.
For longer.
I think the Eagles, no matter who the QB is, they can score some points against them. It's just a matter of, we haven't even mentioned Slay's not playing.
Yeah, well, let's talk about that. He had arthroscopic knee surgery earlier in the week, so he's out for this one, at least a couple or a few games here. The hope and the expectation is that he's back before the end of the regular season. They didn't put him on IR. But, yeah, I mean, this is a tough game to not have him. You're facing a really good trio of receivers.
Yeah. Yes, very, very good. The kid from Ohio State, and then the kid from Kansas State, and then the kid the Eagles should have drafted. So Lockett, and I'm not going to try to pronounce the other guy's name. I'm sure you have it mastered.
Jackson Smith and Jigba?
In Jigba? In
Jigba, yeah.
Jigba. And obviously Metcalf. So they've, I'm guessing. So if it was Desai, it would have been a combination probably of Ricks and Ringo, I'm guessing.
I think it's going to be a lot of Ringo.
They seem to like Ringo.
He's moved up the depth chart. He was ahead on the depth chart last week pretty clearly. Yeah. But it's also it's a position where we could see Sean Desai. Well, we could see the defense rotating. I don't know. That's the thing. We've seen Desai rotate these positions. Maybe Matt Patricia won't. That's what I was
saying. And that was a big thing about Sean Desai's. That was a big part of his philosophy, was rotating guys. And maybe Matt Patricia's completely different. We might see Keeler Ringo out there for every snap. Job started the year as the top outside guy.
And he's had to play this year quite a bit. And he hasn't been bad when he's played.
Hasn't been bad. None of those 3 guys. I mean, Ringo just kind of started. He played his most snaps Sunday. But look, if one of those guys is going to be like a future starter, it should be Ringo. You never know. You would hope. But it's a tough matchup. But I'm confident they're going to score points no matter who the QB is. It's just a matter of they can stop Seattle. They haven't stopped anybody in quite a while.
Yeah, and a few other notes injury-wise since the last podcast. Zach Cunningham out for this game. Cam Jurgens also out in addition to Slay. So at linebacker, it's going to have to be Shaq Leonard. They don't really have any other options. So he played 14 snaps last week. He'll have to play a bulk of them in this game. And then at right guard, it sounds like Sua Opeta is going to get the start there.
Excuse me.
Sua's the veteran. We know Tyler Steen started in the first Cowboys game, but Sua was a little banged up then. And they're coming here to Seattle where it's going to be really loud at that stadium, and you're going to have the silent count. So having the veteran out there probably makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Jorgens has missed a lot of games. I think this will be a 6th game.
Mm-hmm.
Something to keep an eye on. The other guard was supposed to be the one who was always hurt, but yeah.
And he just normally plays through it.
That's true.
Yeah. And without Juergens, we should mention last week we saw Landon Dickerson take he was out there for Kelsey late in the game, which is probably an indication that Juergens was pretty hurt. But I mean, that would mean that Landon will be the backup center in this game too, if anything were to happen.
Right. They're so thin at linebacker. They lost Christian Ellis, obviously, on waivers to the Patriots. I wonder, or Christian Ellis would have been playing. He's playing for Belichick instead of Matt Patricia, right? What if Ben Van Sumeren is at the point where they might trust him with 8 or 10 snaps on defense?
Maybe. I don't know what Matt Patricia thinks about him.
Yeah, it's hard to know. It's hard to know. You have a defensive coordinator who's never coordinated and a linebacker who's never played linebacker. So,
yeah. And look, I think that the Eagles are still going to call Sean Desai their defensive coordinator.
Do you?
Yeah, but if he's not calling the plays, it's a little different than offense.
Because if you have an offensive head coach, yeah,
exactly, yeah.
So, I don't know if
someone's got to be in charge of that defense, and if it's not the guy calling the plays, it's weird.
Yeah, for us, we could call Matt Patricia de facto defensive coordinator, and that's what he is. He's a de facto defensive coordinator. So if they don't want to call him that, I will. That's what he is. I mean, if you have a defensive head coach and the defensive coordinator is not calling the plays, that's a very different situation.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, if you have an offensive head coach, I mean, that's what he does. He calls the defensive plays. They might not make an official change, but I know in the past, we called Bill Musgrave the offensive coordinator in '98, and we called Todd Bowles the defense. Well, he was the defensive coordinator in title in what was that?
2011,
12, right? Okay. Because Juan was DC in 11 and 12. And then Bowles came. Bowles was secondary coach. Yeah. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But whatever they want to call him, it doesn't matter. It's Matt Patricia's defense right now, and it's going to be really interesting to see what he comes up with. Is he going to blitz more? Is he going to rotate less? What are we going to see? What are we going to see differently?
Yeah, I don't know. We both picked the Eagles in this game. Any of the last 24, 48 hours change your mind on that?
No. As long as Ben Van Sumeren's healthy, I'm sticking with my pick. No, I'm not going to change my pick.
I'm not changing it either. I don't know if I'd let us change it, but I think.
Were you the commissioner of the predictions now?
I was pretty confident they were going to win this game, and I'm not as confident right now.
Yeah, how can you be? But it's a lot more interesting now, certainly.
Not a boring day here for the Eagles.
Yeah, it never is with this team. But look, they still have a lot of good players. They have not all the players, but most of the players that got them to 10-1. And Seattle's not that good. They've lost 4 in a row themselves. It's a game the Eagles should win, even with these injuries. Can't wait. I can't wait to watch the game, and I can't wait for pregame and postgame, and then we'll do a podcast.
Yeah, in the middle of the night.
If the Eagles win, I mean they're in good shape. They're 2 wins over Tommy DeVito and a win over Jonathan Gannon from the number 2 seed.
Yeah,
at worst.
At worst. So we'll see. All right, you got anything else before we wrap this up?
It could come down to Ravens Niners. I mean, could come down to that game deciding if the Eagles are the number 1 seed. What a story that would be if after all this, The Eagles win out. The Niners led up on Christmas against the Ravens, who they're trying to hold on to the number 1 seed in the AFC. So that's a big game for them. And, that it's not that out of the question that the NFC Championship game could be at the Link.
Yeah, no, it's certainly not out of the question. Yeah, they're right there. All right, you got anything else?
No.
Well, let's wrap this up. If you enjoy the Eagle Eye podcast, please do us a favor, rate and subscribe wherever you get your pods. If you're watching on YouTube, please click that like button, subscribe there as well. This is just a bonus pod. There was too much going on for us not to hop on here. So we'll talk to you guys after the game, early Tuesday morning. For Reuben, I'm Dave. This has been Eagle Eye presented by Nissan. Take care.